Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Black Diamond Podcast with the Ascension Podcast Network. I am your host, Chris Hecker, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Jerry Durney. Jerry is not smoking tonight. No smoking allowed. There's nothing to nothing to smoke about and nothing to celebrate now.
No, there is not.
Well, at least not as far as on the field stuff goes. But I guess if you wanted to smoke a cigar, to the to a rebirth of the podcast and our new name, after we did post the poll and we talked about it last week. So thank you to everyone who voted in the poll. The people have spoken, and the 4 to 7 pod reigns supreme. That seemed to be the one that people like the most, and we got it right there on Jerry's t-shirt, which is very fitting. I will probably you'll probably have to let me know where you got that and if they have a Yankee one available too, so that we can coordinate on that for the debut of the show coming late 24, early 2025, whenever we pick back up after this season. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the name change. I'm sure that I'm sure you don't hate it either, and I know that a lot of it seemed to be the one on Twitter that people were the most excited about. People were throwing out ideas for logos. It's one of those ones that's like pretty easy to kind of envision from the get-go. And if we ever get in the business of like selling merch or anything, there's probably a lot you can do with that too. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. How are you feeling?
I mean, that feels very reflective of the spirit of the pod. We're, if nothing else, we're a Mets and Yankees podcast first. So why not capture the spirit of that? And I mean, what are the two things that link Yankees and Mets fans the most? It's taking the subway to the game. So I feel like it'll perfectly capture what we talk about the most here on the show.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as of right now, we are all Mets fans today, because while we may have our differences at times, whether it's I mean, lately all the trolling has been on the other side with the playing "Oh my God" after the sweep or smoking a cigar after we lost to the White Sox. But I'm willing to set all that aside because we are in a heated race with the Baltimore Orioles, who the Mets are currently playing, and they're not doing so well tonight. Yeah, they got us the one, and yeah, we'll burn the tape from tonight, and please just get us one. Please just get us one tomorrow. They're skipping Corbin Burns for you, as we discussed before we started recording. They're skipping Corbin Burns. Well, they're not skipping his start there, but they're pushing him a day back, so you get to miss Corbin Burns. So please just take advantage of that for us and also for you, I guess.
Yeah, they're as of right now, they're still undecided as far as who's going to pitch the rubber game. I mean, I think we can safely call it the rubber game at this point. It's 7-1 in the eighth.
Yeah.
Anyway, the series finale tomorrow. We still don't know who's pitching for Baltimore. That feels like that should be in the Mets' favor, but also they're making Dean Kramer look like 1997 Mike Messina tonight. So
yeah. Yeah,
we do have one. So
yeah, you got the one last night, and that was a pretty. That game was pretty electric. I actually watched most of that game. Yeah, David Peterson was lights out until he wasn't in the seventh, but that just set the stage for Francisco Alvarez to send Citi Field into a frenzy and get a much needed gorilla off of his back. Side note, though, I have a question. This might be a really stupid question.
There are no stupid questions.
Only stupid people. But no, my question is, as far as the rubber game goes, do they only call it the rubber game if they split the first two games? Or I was under the impression, okay, I was today years old when I found that out. I thought that the third game was always just the rubber game, no matter what happened. So.
Well,
you learn something new every day.
If a team took the first two, you would just call it the series finale. Why
Fair
it's the
enough.
don't know the origins of that, but it's just one of those things I picked up early. And I'm like, good, makes sense.
That's fair. I never picked up on that. I guess I've been living under a proverbial rock this entire time. But yeah, was literally today years old, literally right now years old when I found that out. So, the more you know, it's only a rubber game. If the first two games are split, apparently this is common knowledge, but not something I knew. But either way, yeah, we can safely call it the rubber game. I mean, hopefully, I would love if by some miracle it became just a series finale. Either way, please take that. Either way, please take that last game. So they haven't announced who the Orioles are pitching, but have they announced who the Mets are rolling with tomorrow? Sean Manaea. Okay, I feel like
looked pretty good last week. So
yeah,
and mostly has been pretty good. I would say since the start of July. So
yeah, he's been solid. He's had a solid season overall. It's one of those things that it could be. I guess at times he can be a little bit hit or miss, and I mean he's mostly been hitting, as of late. But the Orioles are a tough team. I mean, I guess one good thing is he's a lefty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe he can at least, like keep Gunnar Henderson at bay.
I just hope that all of the Mets starters watched what Severino did in his complete game shutout, and the most important takeaway from that should have been: look what happens when you actually attack the strike zone and you don't try to live on the corners and you don't nibble. If you actually go after guys, yeah, you might get hit sometimes. Sometimes you just run into a better lineup. It happens. But more often than not, if you attack the strike zone, good things happen.
If you have the right stuff,
I'm looking direct.
absolutely.
I'm sending the pointing emoji right at you, Jose Quintana. Actually, go at guys.
Yeah, we're actually pointing. We're actually sending the pointing emoji at Jose Quintana to the next flight to Japan, along with Clay Holmes.
You ain't kidding. Oh,
Yeah.
might have something here. Lindor doubled, and now Gunnar just committed an error. So long way to go. But if Gunnar Henderson's going to commit an error,
that's something. That's something you have to take advantage of.
I hope so.
I mean, I'm not saying come back and win the game, but like you at least score that run, like,
or at least make the Orioles like have to use their pen.
Yeah, at least
so that they're in a bind tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Make it so they have to sweat a little bit to close out this game. That'll set the stage for a rather hopefully advantageous situation for the Mets. Considering that, considering that they have not like decided who their pitchers yet, it almost sounds like either it'll be a bullpen game or like that they might like call somebody up for like a spot start.
Would entirely possible, and be kind of curious to figure out who they would go with. Oh, and that probably is going to be a double for Nimmo. So this is probably going to be at least 7-2. Nope, they're going to hold Viennos at third. All right, but 2 in scoring position. This might be something. But
yeah,
they're already kind of in a bind anyway. Grayson Rodriguez is on the IL. They already went through Kramer. Oh, they were supposed to have Zach Eflin pitch tomorrow. I think that's what it was. And they just put him on the IL today. So you got one of your deadline guys on the IL. Grayson Rodriguez was your best pitcher before Corbin Burns got there. He's on the IL. They already used Rogers in the series. They used Kramer tonight. So yeah, they're more than likely they're probably calling someone up from AAA. Would be the safe guess. I'm kind of at a loss to figure out who.
Yeah, that sounds like it has spot start written all over it. Not sure who it'll be, but I'm sure that we'll either find out maybe over the duration of this recording, or probably immediately after the news will break, because that would just be that would naturally be that would naturally be our luck. And I guess the good news too, with because I mean, we'll get into what's going on with the Yankees and how much Clay Holmes sucks. But before we do that, I guess while we're on the subject of the Orioles, I guess the good news, if you're a Yankee fan and for the foreseeable future until these things like kind of correct themselves over time, I guess. But the good news for the Yankees right now, and also the good news for the Mets right now, as a team that's playing the Orioles, is that they have their own woes with closing pitchers. Craig Kimbrell just got demoted, which is, it's so funny that because it's funny, I remember when Clay Holmes got elected to the All-Star game, which I think he mostly did. I think he mostly did that off the fact that he hadn't blown a save till the end of May. So then that's around the time. So around the time of the voting, Clay Holmes actually was probably one of the best closer, if not the best closer in the American League. And then by the time the All-Star game came around, that pick had aged kind of poorly. And I saw a lot of people arguing that Craig Kimbrell should have been the guy instead of him. And
I don't know about that.
Yeah, and now he's been demoted, and it seems that
what
do we got?
We have a jumbo dong. Martinez with a 3-run shot. It's a 2-run game.
Yeah, hey man, there's kids watching. Chill out.
no Diddy.
No, that's great news though. So it's 7-5 now. Wow. Okay.
And they were just right before that. They were just getting Yennier Cano warmed up. So that's probably going to accelerate the process for Baltimore.
Okay. Well, Yankees currently are. So we're kind of neck and neck live streaming this AL East race as it unfolds. Yankees are currently in the top of the 8th. They got Kahnle on the bump, and he is currently pitching to Josh Naylor with 2 outs. So if Kahnle can get out of this, if there was ever a time for the Yankees to, kind of get their heads out of their asses, or at least for Clay Holmes to do so, it would be a great opportunity if he could, Clay Holmes is actually warming up right now. Or I think that's somebody else. Never mind. I think that's Luke Weaver actually. But
you got rid of the Chiron real quick. I think your Chiron, you were asking him to warm up that Indeed profile, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think you actually really need an Indeed profile to work at 7-Eleven. You could probably, it's probably a thing where you could just walk in and fill out an application there and, probably get an interview in a couple of days. And by the end of the week, you'll probably be working there. So
you present yourself for the job you want.
Yeah.
What they say.
Yeah. And right now, Clay Holmes is definitely dressed for 7-Eleven because never closing, always open. Or he could be I don't know, a sleepy fireman and just never saves people. Whatever other shitty puns, whatever other shitty pun jobs you want to come up with, you can. But yeah, I think
the worst door company
Yeah. No, I could think of a few out there, but yeah, thankfully
before we get into the Yankees troubles, I just do want to pass this along because we were talking about it in the group chat on Sunday night. I have 2 friends in there. One's a Yankee fan, one's a Tiger fan, and credit to my friend Tyler Stover, one of the funniest people I know, and also a Tiger fan. More like Jason Derulo, the way he tripped over himself when the lights got bright there in the 10th inning.
That's a good one. Was that his? Is that the Tigers closer? Who? Because I think
no. We were talking about Dominguez's throw.
Oh,
that's what
I won't even lie to you. I turned the game off after the. I pulled a U when the Tigers tied the game in the 9th. I turned the game off.
Even with
the context to it was that I'm in an online dynasty NCAA football thing, and I told someone, I was like, hey, I'm down to play in a few minutes. I just want to watch the Yankees hopefully close out this game, and I pretty much knew as soon as I sent that message that they weren't going to do that. Sure enough, like 2 or 3 batters later, Clay Holmes gives up the tying run. I'm like, all right, yeah, we can just play now. Fuck this. So then I played that game, and then I played Kevin after that, and he whooped my ass.
No. We had that in the Discord. That was dastardly.
Yeah. But oh god, people were watching that.
Well, I mean, I saw you mentioned it.
I thought like it was on like the Twitch or something.
No,
like
no.
The middle initial Twitch. I was like, oh god, like other people witnessed that debacle. Like,
no, you just said that he fricasseed you, so I was.
Yeah. Oh, I thought there was like some sort of live stream that people were watching that I wasn't aware of. All right. Yeah. I like to keep that one between me and God, aside from the memeing that I did in the Discord. But yeah, Clay Holmes has. I mean, I shouldn't even really say the Yankees struggles because really, like at this point, I feel like the Yankees are playing overall. I think they're playing much better baseball than they were for like the past couple of months. But I'd say the real culprit right now, and the reason why maybe their lead over the AL East isn't a little bit why they don't have a little more breathing room. The real culprit is Clay Holmes. I mean, he has 10 blown saves, which is good for most in the league. Even some of the games he does save, he makes it kind of he makes it kind of like pulling teeth to get it done. Like he had that one. I think it wasn't even a save situation where he entered the game, but there was that game against the Rangers like a week or two ago where he came in and he ended up throwing like 42 pitches and barely got out of that game by like the skin of his teeth. So it's been it's been pretty pretty nauseating to watch him, and obviously some of it is some of it is I guess just like typical Yankee fans, like, damn, you live like this, which I mean we've been living like this for a good 11 years now since Mariano Rivera retired, and obviously there's never going to be another one of those, but it shouldn't. You don't necessarily have to feel like the game's over in the ninth inning, but you also shouldn't go into the ninth inning being like, oh God, like, how's this guy going to blow it this time? Boone seems to be sticking with Clay Holmes, or at least hasn't shown any real willingness to move off of him as the closer, which, number one, I don't really get why, at this point, I don't really get why closers are still a thing. I mean, I think I know why it's still a thing, because I think it should really just be like you bring in your best bullpen arm for the best, for the highest leverage situation against like the best part of the other team's lineup. So like if your best pitcher, if you think your best bullpen guy is like Canely, you bring him in to face like Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, and friends, and Stephen Kwan. If it's someone else at a given time, you put in someone else. I think that, and this is kind of a whole different discussion, but I think part of the issue is that like all these closers are like the highest paid relievers. So owners and GMs think like, oh, this is the guy who has to come into the ninth inning because, we're paying him the big bucks and he's got the cool intro, which Clay Holmes' intro is kind of weird. It's like I don't know. It's just some shitty country song. It's not like Edwin Diaz where it's like, oh, we're putting all this money into like pyrotechnics so that you can come out to the trumpet song. We're not doing that for the eighth inning. We're doing that because we want to let people know it's time to go home. But I do think that they need to definitely consider, because sometimes pitchers, like we've discussed, they go through slumps too. And I promise I'll stop rambling here in a minute, but yeah, it's like pitchers go through slumps too. A lot of it probably is mental. And sometimes like just moving them to like the sixth, be like the sixth or seventh inning guy, like sometimes that gets a pitcher right. Because I remember like one of the times Chapman was struggling as a Yankee, they demoted him to like sixth inning guy for like a week or two, and then like a week or two later he was back in the closer role and he was Chapman again. So I think it's something that needs to be considered, because we can't really go into the playoffs like counting on Clay Holmes to close out these big games for us. And I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet like a week or two ago. It was like a New York Post article, which I don't even know why I'm like acknowledging them, but the headlines of the article was like signing Juan Soto could make it hard, could complicate retaining
I
Clay
did see
Holmes.
it.
It's like, and I think someone tweeted like, "Oh yeah, purchasing a yacht, complicates buying a Toyota or something like
Yeah.
that."
Yeah.
It's just like this headline just keeps getting dumber and dumber with time.
But you know what? Like you mentioned, sometimes you got to move a guy just to let him get his head right. The Mets did this with Edwin Diaz back in May.
hmm
Matter of fact, I saw this stat this morning that it might have been the last week of May or the second to last week of May, but whenever they did that demotion, his ERA was near 5.5, and as of today, it's I think like 3.2. Like he's mostly been pretty good since they got him back in the closer's role, and that was very much a mental thing. Which in his case, I get it. You're coming off a year not pitching, and an ACL injury for someone that like that's going to be important for any athlete. So I get like, am I going to be as good as I was before? And you get used to going back out there and doing it 3-4 times a week. Like that's very much a process. And sometimes you blow saves and you didn't even necessarily do anything wrong. I mean, I think of the Orioles game that the Yankees had right before the break with the Volpe booting the ground ball and then Verdugo letting one go over his head because he slipped.
Yeah,
Like Clay Holmes didn't really do anything wrong. That's
some of it. Yeah, some of it's like you don't get you don't get the help. And if I was making some weird faces, I was just reacting to a crazy play. So Austin Wells hit a double off the top of the center field wall, and then Trent Grisham got thrown out at the plate trying to score from first. And I guess are they looking at it?
I just switched over and they're showing the replay. That is really close.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're reviewing it because they're pitching to the aforementioned Anthony Volpe right now. So I didn't think he was safe in real time. After seeing the replay, it looked like maybe, but
he might have got his spike on the plate, maybe.
I don't think there was really enough there. It looked like for a minute like he was like it looked like as he was turning from third that maybe I mean, it's also hard to tell in replay, but it looked like when he made the initial turn from third that he maybe wasn't running hard enough. And then it looked like he kind of turned on the jets as he like got down the line. But I mean, there's a lot of things you could say about Trent Grisham. I mean, not really a lot of things, but he doesn't strike me as like the type of guy who gets knocked for his hustle. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. It might just be the replay making him look bad.
One of the things I will say about Trent Grisham is he opened the portal to hell, because if not for him, the Nationals don't win the World Series 5 years ago. Thanks for that. But back to the closer discussion, and I feel like it's two sides of the coin, because on one hand, if we talk about small sample size, well, really, it's a 1-inning job where, a pitcher can have a rough first 2 innings, and then you look up and it's, he only gave up 2 runs in 7 innings. Huh. Whereas for the closer, it's you
need to get these 3 outs.
Get this inning right now, and that's
it's almost like all right, like we're bringing you in. Like, it's almost like, okay, we're bringing you in to face, say, 3 batters, at a minimum, no pun intended, but like, all right. So it's like, all right, we're bringing you in to face Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, and Josh Naylor. Like, if you don't get like at least 2 of those 3 guys out, you didn't do your job.
Yeah, we're in trouble. And if we lose this game, it's probably on you.
Yeah. Like you're the one who's gonna catch the heat. You're the one who people are gonna look at and wanna run out of town. But
and I can say this from experience as a Met fan: the first couple of years with Diaz, I will put my hand up. I think I even might have been in 2021 when Case had me on the pod with Jude and Kev. I was out on Diaz because there were so many. The he would be good for most of the time, but the blow-ups were so bad that it would make you forget the good work that he did. And now you can kind of look back in time and realize, especially his first year here, he was pitching with the juice ball, and he was always getting killed by home runs. And it's okay, so that really wasn't him. That was most of that was probably the juice ball. You can live with that. And then when you go and look at the other years, it's all right, is he really that much different? Or looking at 20 and 21, it's all right, how much was he that much different from, say, any other closer that, like even like Kenley Jansen at his best, he still had a few couple blown saves per year, no matter how ugly they might be. And then you saw him in 22, and it's, oh, that's the guy we traded for. That was his last year, and that's what it's supposed to look like. Okay. And this is kind of always the deal with closers. And I say this not to hold over Yankee fans' heads, but it's like outside of Rivera and maybe Dennis Eckersley,
Trevor
this is
Hoffman.
kind of always the deal. It's like,
yeah,
most of the time they're going to be good, but you're not going to like when it's bad because the margin for error is slimmer than it is for anybody else.
Yeah, and you're bringing them into like the highest leverage situation, and that's it's a good point you make about how sometimes with like a starter, it's like they have a bad first or second inning, and then they settle in, and next thing you know, they give you a quality start, and they only give up like 3 runs over 6 innings or something like that, and to that point, I would say that's like even more of a reason I would say to take Holmes out of the closer role to help himself get right. Like if he's coming in the 6th or 7th inning, obviously he's still not going to have the leash he would have if he were a starter or even like a long reliever. And I don't really see him as a long reliever. I think that would be a bit of a drastic change. But that way, at least if you're bringing him in, say you do bring him in like the 6th or 7th inning, and maybe he is a little shaky at first, he has a little more leeway or a little more room to kind of work through it, as opposed to just like, okay, you gave up a run, the game's over now.
Yeah, you don't want him pitching with that thought in the back of his head of, oh God, this is going bad again. We're doomed. This is on. Fuck. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Whereas it's just like, all right, if you give up a run in the 6th inning, all right, not ideal. You still got your lineup to get you back in the game. You're all right. Or if he pitches a clean inning, you can kind of bank on a couple of those and go, all right, I do know how to do this. This is not a problem. I'm all right. And then you bring him back in. And I would say, I guess the other thing that probably benefits the Yankees having this right now is better that he's going through this right now than the last week of September, where you're going to ask him to try to fix this on the fly as you're going into the postseason, and you just sort of have to cross your fingers and hope he gets through it. At least you've got a chance to do this trial and error right now, where theoretically you could move him to the 6th or 7th and let him work on it. And if in a month he's good to go, then hey, problem solved.
Yeah, I think what they need to do is, so the playoffs start, and Clay Holmes is actually in the game right now, and he actually looks really good right now. He got the first 2 outs. He got the first 2 outs at the top of the 9th inning, and it only took him 7 pitches. I wasn't quite paying attention to the first at bat because I'm doing my job here, but I switched over to the window with my stream, and he struck the second batter out on a couple of nice pitches. And it helps that he's kind of facing like the bottom of the Guardians lineup now. So I think, that's probably a more ideal situation for him than, going up against like the big dogs like Jose Ramirez and friends. But I'm sorry, I completely just lost my train of thought.
Well, I'll say it's probably better that if he does have this issue, better to have it now than the last week of September, where you've just got to hope he gets through this.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, at least trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. You at least have some time to figure it out, and if you have to, you at least have some time to let him work through this slump and get right for that time. Because I mean, when he's right, he is pretty good. Like he's one of the, like as far as saves goes, he's pretty far up there in the American League. So he's someone that when he's on, like you can trust him, and he can go out there and he can do good. He just, it's like you said, when it's not as he walks a batter, it's 2-out walk, so hopefully no harm, no foul, but not ideal. But yeah, it's like you said, like, kind of with closers, like when it rains, it pours. I think what they need to do is a week. So the playoffs start. The playoffs start in, like, I guess you could say, like
month and a half.
Yeah, a month and a half, so about 40 days and some change. They just need to pretend it's Lent and have Clay Holmes give up blowing saves for the rest of the year.
Well, no, but then that would take them into October. You'd still have another month to go. Yeah, you might want to revisit this on like September 15th. That would.
Yeah.
From then till now, you just kind of got to live with it. But if you really want to make this work.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably deal with about another month of Clay Holmes heart attacks, and then, but yeah, come September 15th, it's time. I think at that point, it's like, all right, either lock in or you need to get the fuck out of that closer role, or at least have some sort of a demotion where you're not coming on. You're not coming in the ninth inning, or your pecking order in the bullpen as far as leverage situations is lower. And I say this as okay. So the first two batters were so easy. Now he's down 2-1 now he's down 2-1 in the count to Bo Naylor. So this is kind of annoying. Let's see what he does here.
And unfortunately, Baltimore's tacked on 2 here in the ninth. So.
Oh, brother. You had one job.
And some of that was our own doing. I mean, we brought Danny Young in, which he's one of the 2 lefties we have left. Oh, actually, no, I think they demoted Alex Young. So I think Danny Young is the one lefty we have in the pen right now. And he's been fine, but I feel like they've mostly brought him into low leverage spots. Whereas right now it's like, hey, get 3 outs so we've got a chance to go win this in the bottom of the ninth. Task is a little tougher now. So
yeah, it's much taller. That's like much taller of an order. Do you think if they had gotten closer, like if say they did tie the game or take the lead, do you think they would have brought in someone else a little more high leverage, or do you think they brought him in like kind of as like a lefty specialist?
Well, to be fair, let me see where the inning started. I want to see who they had. So Jackson Holiday led off, so that's a lefty. Then it was Cedric Mullins, so that's another lefty. Is Mountcastle a lefty or a righty? I can't remember.
Mountcastle, I believe he's a righty.
And then Gunnar was after him. So this might have been like, hey, look, if you can get the first 2 outs here, we're in good shape. And we can just leave you for the third. Why they let him pitch the whole inning, I don't know. Granted, he also didn't get help from his defense either. There, matter of fact, on one play, Nimmo had a fielding error, and then they threw to the plate. Young cut it off, and they tried to get the runner at third, and overshot third. So, yeah, this it was not great. And they're in the bottom of the ninth, and Kimbrel's actually getting loose in the pen. So, but they're going to let Yanier Cano at least try to finish this. Pete, I had hope because he came in and Pete was the first guy he faced, and I think Pete got like 10 pitches off of him, and then he just grounded out. And I figured once Pete didn't get on, and it's like, all right, you had a double-digit pitch battle, and we didn't get that. Like that kind of felt like all the air coming out of the balloon. And then he went 6 pitches with Jesse Winker or Bader, because Bader pinch hit for him, and that didn't go anywhere. So yeah, that kind of felt like our shot.
Well, as the great John Sterling would say, that's baseball season. That's baseball Susan. I'm sorry. But actually, John Sterling was actually back in the booth for a couple of innings tonight.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, I think he heard that kid who was announcing that inning for the Mets, and it was like, I gotta remind you motherfuckers like who I really am right now. And that kid actually did really good.
They
I
very
was
rarely miss. Matter of fact, if I'm not,
he
it
had
might have
like
been
the
the first
kid
or second one that did it. Is now doing play-by-play for Brooklyn.
for the
So
Cyclones.
yeah, so they
Really?
kind of have a fun fact about that. The other guy who does the games for Brooklyn is a guy named Justin Rock, who I told you that I did play-by-play for a year in 2015 down here in Brevard. He was here the year before that, so I actually know Justin a little bit. Pretty cool to see him now working in I believe this is either year 2 or 3 for him with the Cyclones, which I do envy, being able, one, getting to call Mets minor league games, but two, doing it there, because that is a beautiful place to watch a game.
Oh
So
yeah, I was at I was at Brooklyn Cyclones park. It was before you graced us with your presence. It was like middle late June. I was there. A friend of mine was like supposed to go to that game. So I got tickets too, and like because we were both like going to be in New York at the same time, and then some things came up where he couldn't go anymore. So he like sent me all his tickets, and it was like a Friday game. So they do like it's like $25 gets you like a ticket and like 2 free tall boys.
ooh,
So me and my buddy Justin, like we had like two game tickets that we used for the actual seats, and then we just used the other 7 like drink ticket vouchers, and like we both just got loaded in Coney Island, and
pretty good.
it was a pretty grand old time.
That sounds like a
But yeah,
blast.
no, it is a beautiful park. It's a great it's a really cool place to be. Like it's a great view. They do a lot of like fun stuff at the games,
I need to
and
get there for Seinfeld night, because they do it every year, and every year they knock it out of the park, and I need to be there for one of them eventually.
oh damn,
When
did that
they'll actually they'll rename the park for the day to be Vandalay Industries Park, and they just have like 50 tie-ins. Oh, they never miss.
oh so they fully commit to the bit. They're like
Oh yeah,
if
they've done like Keith Hernandez bobbleheads, and it's like him in the jacket or the sweater from the episode.
see if it was them, they would have smoked a real cigar on the podcast last week.
Fair, fair. But like normally on the bobblehead, it'll say like the person's name on the bottom of it. Like on one side, it said, "I'm Keith Hernandez," and on the back, it says, "Nice game, pretty boy."
Yeah.
They'll take BP wearing puffy shirts. It's tremendous.
Yeah, so quick update. So Clay Holmes got out of the inning, and now we're watching a real closer pitch in Emmanuel Clase, who he's pitching a Glaber right now. It's a 0-2 count, so he's probably pretty close to getting out of this inning. But since Clay Holmes had a fairly clean inning, I'll go ahead and change my banner now and kind of shift topics here. So we're a little late on this because, of course, he decided to wait till the day after we recorded. But Aaron Judge hit his 300th home run in Chicago. He is He is the fastest person to do this in terms of amount of games played. Players have been younger and have gotten to 300 quicker than him. Like I believe A-Rod was younger than him, and I think Pujols was a lot younger than him too. But Aaron Judge is like the only one to do it with less than 1,000 games played. So
This is from uh,
congratulations.
this is from Sarah Langs, because Judge hit another one tonight. He now has 302 in 959 games, and that's 23 more than any other player in their first 1,000 career games. He did it in 959.
Woof. God damn. That man is something else. And, I think it doesn't matter who you're a fan of. You got to acknowledge and appreciate greatness. Like I saw a lot of people online kind of hating on Judge. Like I saw people being like, "Oh, we should really be measuring this by their age rather than games played." I was like, How does that make any sense at all? Like, you're just hating just to hate.
Like you played 4 years in college. Like, okay, that's you get here when you get here. Like, do we devalue Ichiro getting 3,000 hits just because he got here at? I think he got here at what 28, 29, and he played for 15 years. Like, no, the
No,
achievement's still the achievement.
if anything, that makes it more impressive because he started so close to the age of 30 and was still able to, put together a 3,000 hit career and like play, play all the way into his 30s at a high level, and then,
And stay healthy.
yeah, and stay healthy. And then he was able to, get a couple of years in his 40s. So I think it just makes it more impressive. And, I would say that the same thing should apply for Judge. The fact I think he was like 26 his rookie year, or 25. I think he was 25 in 2017 for his rookie year. So
I think I've mentioned on here before, he came up towards the back end of 2016 and looked completely overmatched. I think he had like 120, or it was something not great.
yeah,
And I knew he was like, he was a first round pick. There had been a fair amount of hype around him because he was doing this in the minors. And it's
right.
like, okay, let's see what he's got. And then he didn't look good for that first, month and a half. And it was, all right, so what is this guy? So I think what Aaron Judge is a testament to development. And I mean, obviously he had that talent. Like, people saw it coming once he started getting going in the minors. But I think it's testament to there's more than one way to get there. I think we see so many guys now try to follow the same things and, feel like they have to be in a rigid discipline, or like they have to have this approach in order to be able to get to the major leagues. And it's, just because you weren't drafted straight out of high school, or you weren't drafted after your third year out of college, that doesn't necessarily mean that, things aren't going to work out. Or if you get up at 26, 27 years old, that doesn't mean you can't do great things.
Just like
it's unbelievable.
I, for the most part, I don't pay the most attention, or throughout my life as like a baseball fan, I never really paid the most attention to like, the farm system or who the Yankees have coming up. But obviously like the big ones, like, you know about like the Anthony Volpes and the Jason Dominguez's of the world. And like Aaron Judge was one of those people who like, I knew who he was like right when the Yankees drafted him. And he was someone who was like, all right, like, he definitely has that look of someone who, he definitely has this
6'10" power hitter. I'm like, how did they let him fall to this? What's happening?
yeah. You let us get him. The league done fucked up again.
Yep.
But quick update. So we escaped the Clay Holmes allegations, but now we are facing the Kirk Cousins allegations as Nick Cousins. Actually, it's really not his fault. So they have the ghost runner on second in the top of the 10th. And then Cleveland's 9-hitter, he just hit like a perfect bunt down the line, and he kind of got like a perfect roll on it too. So like this ball might have rolled foul, but it kind of like glazed, it kind of glazed like the edge of the grass like just enough that it like kind of stopped its roll, and it like just didn't go foul. So like so Peraza just had to pick it up, and that said bunter Rochio just stole second base. So Steven Kwan's now got second and third with nobody out. So it's time for Nick Cousins to pull some Houdini shit. Maybe something about the Cousins where they're allergic to prime time.
Listen, as a Bucks fan, I am rooting for that to continue this fall.
Yeah. We still got a month till fall though, and a couple weeks till the old football season starts. But for now,
I guess the flip side, like we were talking about sub 1,000 games and health, it is an interesting what if with Judge, because obviously the big thing with him is like, hey, can he hold up? And it does make you wonder, for all those games lost that he's had so far, the fact that he's gotten to 300, even with, and I'm sure he still doesn't feel great. I mean, he had like that he had a foot injury in the spring this year, right? Or I know he had something that was bugging him.
Yeah,
I'm sure
so
he's not. I'm sure he's not at 100% right now.
Yeah, so he had that. Yeah, so he obviously he had that big foot injury last year, and where he like crashed into the wall at Dodger Stadium, and they pretty much said that they pretty much said at that point like that. Um, it took him way longer than it was supposed to. He was supposed like I think at first they said he would be out for like a month. He ended up being out for I think at least 2 or 3 months, and they and I think the doctors pretty much told him like, yeah, this is like something that's gonna like bother you for the rest of your career. And then yeah, I think he had something happen in spring training. I
That
don't
almost
know if
sounds
it
like
was
plantar
like
fasciitis.
yeah, something like that. And like I don't know if it was like a re-aggravation or like a completely unrelated injury, but I think you're right. I think he did get like a little nicked up in spring training. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a question. Like I guess I'll do like a twofold question here. So how many, or I mean, however many folds, I guess it ends up being. How many home runs do you think? So it's I guess like a three-parter. So how many home runs do you think Judge would have had by now if he didn't get hurt so much, if he had like a relatively healthy career, which could segue to a closing topic a little bit later. But how many home runs do you think he would have if he pretty much played like a full season every year by now? How many do you think he will finish with, like on his current trajectory, the way things have played out? And how many do you think he would have finished with if he had the full health? Like, how many do you think he would have ended up with, like when his career's over? So yeah, three-parter.
So you would have to think every time he's played a close to fully healthy season where you're looking at what 140, 150 games. I mean, his stat line's almost always been the same. I mean, you look at 17, you look at 22, you look at what he's doing right now, and I mean, it's going to generally be in the vicinity of 40 to 50 home runs. It might go for 60 again this year. So I would think just on that, at the very least, he's over 400 if he gets those full seasons back.
Yeah, I mean, he had
Might even be like in
37
the
last
430
year.
range.
Yeah, I mean, he had 37 last year from missing, and he missed a couple of months.
Yeah.
So definitely not unreasonable to think he probably clears 400 by now easily.
Yeah, it might even be like in the
He's
430, 440.
he's probably like more like approaching. He's probably approaching like the 450 mark. Like even if you account for like some of the. Well, yeah, I mean he's really never had. Yeah, he's really never had a down year.
Right.
Uh, like he got like 2018, 2019, he had 27 home runs that year, but he was just hurt. He missed like half of the 2020 COVID season. He hit 9.
Right.
And and Voit had okay, Yankees just got okay, Nick Cousins, we salute you. He
A
just
Cousins
somehow
coming through in the clutch. I mean, who?
he just somehow got out of that. Anthony Volpe with a nice double play. That was a pretty play. Honestly, Derek Jeter would be proud because he probably did that better than Jeter could, in all sincerity. But no comment.
I was watching. All right.
I don't know. It was pretty nice. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, like every season that he's had around 140 games, I mean, his stat line's usually the same. So if like you said, I don't even think we know what a down year it really is for Judge that isn't injury affected. And like you said, there's been years where he's had 27 home runs and he was hurt. So can you even really call that a down? Like, I don't think we know what that looks like yet.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If we presume he gets to the standard of, like, if you play 140, you've had a largely healthy year. So if he just had those the whole way through, yeah, I think it'd be pretty fair to say he's probably closing in on 450 right now.
Yeah.
No,
he probably is.
Ends up with ultimately is interesting to me because of course, as we've been talking about, it's going to be dependent on health. And, if he's able to avoid the type of injuries that cut off 2-3 months out of a season for him. And I think, and this is kind of ties into that, is I wonder how long the Yankees will keep him in the field. Now, part of that is they kind of have to as long as they have Stanton, because he just can't be in the field. So as long as
Judge does have a great arm, and he is a very good defender.
Yeah, he's not Adam Dunn out there. Like, he's fine. But I do wonder if they would take that into consideration strictly from the standpoint of, yes, he's a good defender, and you take that, but his value is as bad. And
yeah, that's like
if especially playing center field, like, that's going to do more of a number on you because there's so much more responsibility. And I do wonder if the Yankees would toy with the idea of, well, if we leave him out there, the possibility of him accruing more injuries simply from all the work you have to do in center field would cut into that.
Yeah,
maybe we're better off, like, if he's a DH, you still can get hurt, but the possibility goes down by a lot.
Yeah.
And we're still getting what we want from him. What we want from him is his offense. Yeah. And if we can reduce the injury rate, let's try it.
Yeah, and like, they kind of already have like started, like, they've kind of already started like throwing, they've already started throwing like like DH days for him and maintenance days in for him here and there. So like I think they've already like kind of started thinking about that. And I don't know if it's something where it necessarily goes from like, oh, Aaron Judge is playing like 140 games in the field to he's a full-time DH like once they get Giancarlo Stanton off the books. I think it's more of like, as each season goes on, you'll probably see him like for example, like this season, I would say when this season's over, and and it'll be interesting to like actually see if the data backs up these numbers, because I'm just kind of spitballing, but I would say like this year, like he's probably playing 90% of the games that he's playing, he's in center field or somewhere in the outfield, and he's probably DHing for like 10%. In a couple of years that goes to like 2080 or 2575, and maybe eventually he gets to like 50-50, and then by the end of his career, like the end of his contract, like the last couple of years, maybe he is more of a full-time DH because Stanton will be gone. And I think that
wild card, I guess, would be if because it sounds like Dominguez probably will get the full-time look as the starting center fielder at the beginning of next year, like provided he gets through spring training and he looks the part.
No more
here's your shot.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable, or at least he would have some sort of spot in the outfield if he could. Anything to just get, like, I'm cool with him playing wherever in the outfield. Anything to just get Alex Verdugo out of the lineup, really. But
do you have any dog themed nicknames for him the way Kev does?
The only one I had to contribute, because like Kev was just on fire with them and had so many. The only one I contributed was Bark Simpson.
I had Babe Wolf.
Babe Wolf, that's a good one. Trying to think. Yeah, no, that's
Barcavius Mingo was really good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, no, I don't have Isaiah Barkenstein. That one also. That one made me laugh. That was one of Kev's, I think. But that was a good one. Yeah. If any more come up, and speak of the devil, Mr. Barkenstein is at the plate now. First and third, 2 outs, going up against Clase. So he will probably ground out to end this inning. I'm hoping for a little reverse jinx action here, as Judge takes second on a defensive indifference. But yeah, no, it's
to answer your projection.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I kind of have to go off the idea of we're just not going to see a down year from him that's not affected by injury. Like, as long as he's playing, like, this is what he's going to do. And everything about his hitting profile, like, he's so much more than just a standard power hitter. and I know his strikeouts are out, and this was actually something we talked about a few shows ago, is, yeah, he'll strike out, but more often than not, if he's putting the ball in play, it's an extra base hit, and he's drawing a ton of walks, and not even necessarily just the intentional kind or the, hey, we're going to pitch around you, because you can run those up as a power hitter. But the way he gets on base tells you he's got a good eye for that. Like, he's not getting respect walks. He's earning his walks. So he profiles as just a great overall hitter. So I would tend to believe that his skill set and his makeup as a hitter, he's probably going to age well as long as his body holds up. So 500 feels very attainable for him.
And another ground out for Alex Verdugo. Sorry. No, I agree with you though. I think that he definitely has the type of game that can stand the test of time if his body can. And he is starting to kind of get like the respect walks and like the Bonds treatment a little bit. I mean, he did get intentionally walked once recently where there was nobody on base, and he was actually he said the whole like when he hit his 300th home run, he said it was because he said he was hacking up there because he was pissed off that they had intentionally walked Soto right before him. So that that struck wild. A nerve with him. Yeah. So
I get it's Juan Soto. Like, I don't think you put the four fingers up to say like, oh yeah, 99, yeah, food.
Yeah. No. Obviously, I don't think he. I don't think he. I don't know if he necessarily felt it was just because the way Judge and Soto, they have such a camaraderie, and I feel like everything you mentioned too about eventually phasing Judge out of the field as much, I think also amplifies the importance of why the Yankees need to pay Juan Soto on top of all the other reasons that have already been discussed. Is that you're going to need Juan Soto and potentially another outfielder to really make this plan work to really make this plan work to its full potential. I think that's what you're going to need is Juan Soto here long term, and you're going to need a third or fourth outfielder to kind of phase Verdugo out and solidify the outfield once Dominguez does come up. But yeah, I would say at this point in his career, he's got 7 years left on his contract after this, and then he'll be 39. So maybe he plays a year or two after that. We'll see where he's at. I hate to say that, it's probably unrealistic to count on him not getting hurt again, just with the way he's built and just the way his career has gone so far. I feel like it's not that I'm hoping for this or anything, but I feel like it's reasonable to kind of expect that he might have at least one more injury that causes him to miss a decent chunk of time in his career.
I think the other part of it is that no matter how much we account for greatness or how much we think, oh, this guy's it, and I know we've talked about this in past shows, when Pujols left St. Louis, that was someone that just always was putting up the same line every single year for the length of his career to that point. And we just thought, oh, well, there's nothing in his makeup that says he won't just keep doing this. He was a true, well-rounded, great in every phase type of hitter. Why wouldn't he keep doing it? But he didn't let it happen. Ken Griffey made the all-century team while he was active, and this will tie into later. And we just figured, oh, well, everything we've seen about him says, yeah, he's just going to keep doing this. Didn't happen that way. A-Rod to an extent, and obviously some of that was self-inflicted, but also had a hip replacement, had knee issues. You a lot of it's luck.
Yeah.
Even Bonds at the end, I think missed I know he missed most of 05 while he was trying to run down Ruth and Aaron. And those last years in San Francisco were not easy.
Yeah, it wasn't a gimme. Obviously he did it, but once he did it, he only hit a couple more home runs, and then his career was over. He was really on his last legs. It wasn't a gimme that he was going to break Hank Aaron's record.
It really
He
just does
definitely,
make you appreciate the fact that Hank Aaron did it for as long as he was able to do it. And I mean, that's the true market consistency, because like the stat that always gets thrown around is Aaron did that and never had a 50 homer season. That means you have to be 40 plus for almost 20 years. That's and if you miss one, if you miss one season, that's 40
yeah,
right there.
yeah. Well, Judge has basically been 40 plus every year that he's healthy. He had like 39 in 2021, so that's close enough. So I would say if he plays like a good 7, 8 more years, then he probably gets at least a few more 30 home run. I think he'll finish. I think he'll finish at least close to 500. And I
Yeah,
think
the question to me is like how far into the 600s he goes. That to me,
like as it stands now, or if he were to have stayed healthy.
I think as it stands, because it just feels like this is just the player, like the player that we've seen this year. This was the same player that we saw in 22. And when he's been healthy, it's been this player. So I kind of have to go on what the evidence that I have is. If he plays 140 games, he's going to do this. So
Yeah.
if I have that evidence, I have to believe he's going to get over 600.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, because I was thinking, like, as it stands now, the way I was saying is like, as it stands now, I think like, all right, he'll probably clear 500, 600 might be a stretch. But I would have said, to answer the last part of my question, that had he stayed healthy all those years, that he'd clear 600 pretty easily and possibly give Willie Mays a run for his money. I don't know if he necessarily, I don't think he necessarily reaches 700 or gets to like Albert Pujols or Hank Aaron or Babe Ruth or anything like that. But I think that, that 600 and possibly 660 like could have been in the cards. Now I'm thinking that it might be closer to, with taking into account the fact that there is a solid chance that he may get hurt again, just with the nature of like the way these things work and the way his career's gone so far, that I think that like around 550 would probably be, I feel like he'll probably end up somewhere in that range. So maybe I'm even underselling how great he really is.
And that's a testament to him that if you projected 550, the first thing that popped in my head is like, wow,
That's a
that's
little
it.
short. Yeah.
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 And that's a hell of a career to have started when he did. And if he got to 550, we'd be like, wow, I would have had him nailed on for 6. But that's no two careers are the same. Like Mike Trout was in there at 19, Bryce was at 19,
Yeah.
and Judge came up at 26, and great all the same.
Yeah. Speaking of Mike Trout and Aaron Judge, I think that's a great way to segue into our next topic. So if you could take one player, it could be one player for either from your team or it could be from another team. Maybe it's just a player that you really enjoyed watching. I mean, we both love the Yankees and Mets respectively, but we're also baseball fans first. So we can really, we can appreciate greatness from all around the game. Even sometimes, as hard as it can be, sometimes you have to recognize the greatness of some of the players on like your biggest rivals, and it's always nice when they get traded. Talking about you, Mookie Betts. And I'm sure that there's some examples like that, for you as well. So who is one
My
player?
rivals are paying all their best players $650 an hour. I'd love to know what it's like to watch them get traded. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, no, that's a rough one. Well, at least you don't have Juan Soto in your division anymore.
For now.
For now. Yeah, it's really gonna suck when he goes to the Phillies next year.
You will take those words back right now.
All right. Relax. I knew what you were doing. So I had to, I had to hit back twice as hard. Like, oh, you want him in your division? We'll see. We'll see how much you like it.
No, listen, the Braves let Freddie Freeman go, and what do I get instead? No, I get Matt Olson, and they barely had to give up anything. It's great. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it fucking rules, doesn't it? But anyway, the question at hand here is if there's one player who may have lost some time or a good chunk of their career to injuries, if you could give one player a full career of like all healthy seasons, who would it be?
I mean, for the Mets, the easy answer is David Wright. I mean, I know I'm not the first person to make this comparison, but I think a lot of Met and Yankee fans, respectively, would point out like Wright basically is the Mets' Don Mattingly. Is anyone who watched him knows that's a Hall of Fame talent, and he's got numbers that are pretty close. He just didn't put him up long enough, and really got struck down in his prime with a back injury. And as I mentioned last week, just picture a healthy David Wright when they're in the 2015 World Series, because he had the wonderful moment of first World Series at bat at Citi Field and he hits a home run, but the rest of the series, nothing really there for him. And you wonder what a fully upright, healthy David Wright would have been able to do there. Or, just the fact that his career probably should have been winding down right about now. I mean, basically he was done after that 2015 World Series. He played the first month of the next year, and then he was gone for 2 years. And he basically played half of 2 games at the end of 2018. That was basically it. And it'll probably keep him off ever getting into the Hall of Fame. And I mean, I would put him right there with Chipper. And I mentioned the Nationals before. Watching Ryan Zimmerman basically get the career that David Wright should have had will bother me to no end until the Mets win it. But he would be up there. I would say for a non-Met, Griffey's the easy answer for someone watching him growing up. Like, again, it just felt like a given. He was going to get 3,000 hits. He was going to pass Aaron. Like, he was just going to do everything. And then it didn't happen. And now I have people telling me he was mid on the internet and I might commit felonies. I tried to, I feel like Griffey would be a popular answer for this, especially for anyone that saw him at the time. But
yeah, he's definitely one that came to mind for me.
I kind of asked you about this before we went on air, but I would put this to the audience. Does Troy Tulowitzki qualify for this? Because he had a longer run than I thought. Because obviously when he first came up, those first 4 or 5 years, he was amazing. And I felt like the drop-off happened as soon as that happened. But he was still having all-star seasons through 2015, and then that's basically where it fell off for him. He had more of a prime than I realized, but the talent he was, I kind of wish we had been able to get more of that out of him than we did. For a pitcher, to me, I think I would go Tim Lincecum. And I know this one could be debated from the perspective of because he was the size he was and his dad taught him his delivery, that was how he was going to make up for being a shorter pitcher. Maybe that's how it was always supposed to go because he threw as hard as he did, the way he did. Maybe he was only ever going to have a short shelf life. And the fact that he had those 4 great years, because when you look at it, drafted in 06, debuts in 07, Cy Young in 08 and 09.
That was me. Sorry, that was just me thanking the heavens above. We beat the Kirk Cousins cousin in primetime allegations. He got through another inning, and it wasn't easy, but this game is still tied going to the bottom of the 11th. I apologize, but go on.
So Lincecum debuts in 06, or drafted in 06, debuts in 07, wins those back-to-back Cy Youngs in 08 and 09. He's the ace for the first title they have in 2010, an all-star in 2011, and that was basically it. Like, the slide starts that next year, and that's when the injuries start. And by the time the Giants win that third World Series in 2014, he was out of the bullpen, and 2 years later, he was done. And like I said, maybe because he was shorter in stature and he had to throw hard, and he did throw hard, maybe this was the only outcome that could have ever happened. But his style of pitching, his delivery, the fact that he threw as hard as he did, had great off-speed stuff, was just a fun guy to watch pitch, was a cool personality, seems like a good dude. it just really sucks that we really got like just those 4 to 5 years of greatness, and then that was it. Like you look at someone like
Yeah.
Pedro, kind of a similar build, and he got a 7 to 8 year run of excellence, and that's why he's considered the all timer that he is, and rightfully so. And I just wonder if Tim Lincecum had been able to do that, would he be considered in that air? Because I think the people who watched Tim Lincecum at the time know he was incredible. I feel like the further we get away from watching him, there's going to be an era of people that don't understand just how good he was.
Yeah, no. I think Tim Lincecum is a pretty good example for this because, like, you look at his career, and it might not seem like it. It might not seem like he was someone whose career was necessarily short if you just like go on like Baseball Reference and look at his and you look at his career and look at his numbers. It's like, oh, okay, well, he played for 10 years, and he was like pretty good at the end. When all the numbers settled in where they did, it's like, all right, he had a pretty good career. So you may not necessarily think of him like in that vein. Like, he's probably not someone who like is like front of mind, but yeah, I mean, he had like the 4-year peak from like his second year to his fifth year, where he won 2 Cy Youngs and was an All-Star every year, and he was getting Cy Young votes. He was getting Cy Young votes each of those years, and he even got MVP votes the years where he won the Cy Young. To then just kind of, and he was the ace of and he was the ace of the 2010 team, which was the first Giants team that won it, that would go on to win. They would go on to win it every other year over the next 4. So you may not necessarily think of him in that vein because, one, it's like he kind of made the best out of his peak. But if you think about it, if you think about it, he was when he started getting moved to the like when things started to fall off for him, and when he so what year he got moved to the bullpen in 2014, the year when he won the last World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was still a starter in 2012, and he put up I mean, he kind of
Crazy thing is, his 2 no-hitters came after his peak.
Yeah, because he kind of had shitty numbers in 2012. Like he didn't really have that good of a season. And same with 2013 and 2014 as well. So like they definitely moved him at the right time. So it's hard to like.
The thing is, when you go back and look, when they in 2012 they moved him to the pen in the playoffs, and I think they kind of knew early. I don't think the rest of us had kind of caught on yet, but it was like, okay, you can't throw 7 innings anymore. We bet you're good for 1 though. And he was really good as a reliever that year. By 2014, it had become more of a regular role for him, and it was more of a, like we can't put you in the rotation, and we can't just like not pitch you, but this is the best we can. Like, we're just not going to forget about you, but this is the best we can do. Like the spots that he was getting used in 2012 in the playoffs, they were not giving him that in 14.
Yeah. Yeah, and like if you think about it, like if his peak was, so he probably got robbed of at least like 3 or 4 more years of his peak. If he continues on that trajectory, like if his 4-year peak was an 8-year peak, say he's peaking as a player, up until like he turns 30, because he turned 30 and it was like, all right, like you can't even start anymore. We have to, you have to come out of the bullpen now. But so like by the time he was 30, like the fall off had already started. But say like if he had more of a normal trajectory where, say instead of retiring at 32, he makes it to like 35, and he had like 3 more like peak, like very good Cy Young caliber type seasons, then you very well could be looking. I mean, everyone remembers Tim Lincecum's career very fondly, but you could look at it even more fondly. Maybe he's a 200 win pitcher. Maybe he gets into the Hall of Fame. Maybe he gets another Cy Young. I don't know what the Giants.
Selfishly, we think about, and I compare him to Pedro because of the stature, but at the peak of his career, I mean, we all looked forward to those duels that he had with Clemens every year. Like, that was must-see TV because you knew you were going to see the best of the best.
Yeah.
Lincecum's slide started right as Clayton Kershaw started entering that all-time conversation. Like, imagine if Lincecum had been able to sustain that as Kershaw's coming up and ascending. Like, imagine the duels we would have gotten to see, and as the Dodgers were making their way back into the title mix, where the Giants were still really good and the Dodgers were becoming contenders again. Imagine the great games we could have gotten out of that.
Yeah, no, it would have been rewriting the history books and in a great way, if you would have had those like memorable matchups rather than like, it was kind of more like, all right, like this guy's career's over and this guy's career's starting. But if you could have had like some peak years of Lincecum as Kershaw was coming up and had some matchups, because I mean, and that's back when division teams played each other 19 times. So you probably would have gotten at least a couple of those a year. And, I feel like that would always be fun to watch. This is going to be, he's got it. All right. We are going to the 12th inning.
I think I'm a little ahead of you. I'm surprised I didn't get a reaction out of the ball to the track there for the first out.
That's kind of what I might have not been paying attention for that one. I'm kind of switching back and forth between this window and the stream. I got to at least pay some attention to you.
Oh, but, yeah, Glaber hit one that off the bat. I'm like, oh, that's it. And I guess it was the center fielder who closed it down, but he made an unbelievable catch.
Oh yeah, no, I missed that. But yeah, I think so. I had a few that came to mind for this topic as well. Obviously, Ken Griffey Jr. definitely came to mind. Obviously, as a Yankee fan, the easy answer is the guy that we just spent like 20 minutes talking about, Aaron Judge, because as great as his career is and should end up being, he could have been like, he could have been approaching like, like home run king territory had he stayed.
Oh yeah.
Had he stayed healthy, for those few years that he didn't. So, Judge is like as a Yankee fan, Judge is like the easy one. As far as pitchers go, like Jacob deGrom came to mind because even though I'm not a Mets fan, like Jacob deGrom is one of the best pitchers I've ever seen, and dude's just like, when he's like at his peak, like he's as close to unhittable really as you can get, and he's as close to unhittable as you can get, and like he just like, I feel like he really could have, like, I feel like as good as he was like in his prime, he could have been like one of the greatest of all time if it wasn't for the injuries with him. So he was one that comes to mind. For me though, I think the easy answer for me though is Mike Trout, just because looking at Trout and the way his career has gone, I mean, or the way it's ended up, where from like 2012 till 2019, or like from 2012 to 2016, he pretty much played full seasons every year, and then you kind of you get the MVP season out of him in 2019. And then after that, like, it just kind of falls off a cliff. I mean, he actually stayed pretty healthy for most of the COVID season, but these past few years, obviously, he only played 29 games this year. And at the beginning of the year, like, Trout was shaping up to have like like when he's good, like I feel like he's another one of those players. Like when he's good, he's like the best. And I feel like if you would have asked me like in 2018, like if you would have asked me, I would have said like all right, like Barry Bonds is the best player of all time right now. When Mike Trout retires, we're gonna have a conversation about that. Absolutely. Now with like all the time he's lost, it's like less of a conversation.
He feels closer to Griffey now than Bonds.
Yeah, and that's sad. And I mean, like, I don't even know if Trout would have surpassed Bonds as like the home run king of all time or anything like that. I mean, he hits great for power, but that's like not the only thing. I just think that because also with Barry Bonds, like before all the roids and everything, like he was a 5-tool player, like back in his days with the Pirates or even like his early days with the Giants. Like he did everything good, and Trout's that type of player too, where he's like a true 5-tool player, which seems to be becoming more and more of a rarity these days. It
And
seems like
Trout was doing it in
everyone's
center.
it seems like everyone coming up is either a jack of all trades, master at none, or they have like one or two really good traits, and then the other traits are just kind of like they're just kind of whatever at. But Trout was like one of those true one-tool players where I do truly believe had he stayed healthy that he would have gone down as the best baseball player of all time, like regardless of if he even played in a playoff game in his
Yeah.
life.
And I think that's something that's important to remember here, because I think people will look at it and bring up the, oh, well, what has he won and all that. It's
It's
the
a dumb
fact that
argument when it
we
comes to
got that
baseball.
far into his career and we could safely project, hey, look, if he just keeps doing this and he's healthy, that possibility is there. It's the same thing with Pujols. When he signed, it was, well, yeah, he's played every year, and just about every year you can count on him to put up this exact stat line. This is what he always does.
Ah, shit.
And I think what it really comes down to is just we don't get the opportunity to see these guys truly be as great as they can be. And I think that's what makes the inner circle the truly great. That's what differentiates, is we got to see them be as great as they could possibly be. Like that's what makes it special, is like to kind of make a cross sport comparison. Like the fact that LeBron's still doing this, and he was a rookie when I was a junior in high school, and I'm turning 38 next month. Like the fact that he's still an all NBA guy 20 years later is insane. The fact that
Yeah.
Tom Brady, 20 years in, switched teams and then turned them from 7-9 to Super Bowl champ. Like that's what we mean by we got to see someone be as great as they could be, and their health allowed them to do that. And I think with Mike Trout, to kind of to piggyback off your point of that end point in 2018, since 2021, or starting with that, he's played 41 games in the second half. 40 of those were in 2022. That's honestly sad.
Yeah.
He's someone that we know is that good, and we know what his ceiling is. And that's 4 seasons. 2 of those seasons he played no games in the second half. That, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, that guys' stats are going to change because COVID shaved off 100 games. I mean, think of that. That's probably what, like 200, 300 games right there that he just didn't play in. And as you said, it's not a skill issue with him. When he's still out there, it's, oh, yeah, this is still one of the 3 best players in the AL. It's just a case of being able to stay out there, and that sucks.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's definitely sad to think about, or it's also like maybe one of those years, maybe that was like the missing piece for them to actually get into the playoffs and like break that long drought that they've had, was having Trout healthy. So yeah, as a baseball fan, I always come back to like Mike Trout as like he's like kind of the one that I wonder what could have been the most with him, like above Griffey, above Judge, really above anyone else who we may have kind of been robbed of their career. Anyway, we got one more thing to talk about, and then we'll get out of here. Backyard Sports is making a comeback. It was just announced today. There aren't a whole lot of details out on it right now. I assume it's going to be a computer game again. They haven't really announced a date or what platforms it's going to be on, but I assume it'll just be a computer game because I don't see how it would translate to any other like console or system. But
well, I do wonder, because in its heyday, it was a disc, and computers just don't really have that anymore. So is it going to be something that like you just install on your computer now? Like, is it more software than anything? Because it's a different world.
Yeah, it's probably just something you like go on Steam and like just buy and download to your computer, I guess. Because yeah, it was a disc, but like as far as the gameplay itself, it was very like geared towards the computer, like the way you would, click where you wanted to pitch the ball and click where you wanted to hit for baseball. But yeah, so backyard sports is coming back. Obviously, I mean it's not just baseball. They also got football, soccer. I believe there's backyard hockey and basketball too. So, and I think there's even a. I was watching a video about it. They even have a backyard skateboarding game too.
Ooh.
So I don't know if they're bringing everything back, but I assume they'll at least bring back like the big ones, like the like the baseball, football, and soccer. I would assume at the very least, and maybe hockey too. So yeah, it should be cool. You could put Pete Wheeler in the leadoff spot. Instead of Alex Verdugo or instead of Gleyber Torres, he'll give you a lot more speed and a lot more defense, and then you could put Pablo Sanchez cleanup behind Soto and Judge, and then have Stanton batting fifth and have like a true
Uncle
murderer's
Steve,
roll.
I need you to throw the bag at Pablo Sanchez. I am begging you with my soul.
Yeah,
You want banners and queens. You get Sanchez in the building.
yeah, the Mets fans will forget about Soto real quick if you do that.
No joke.
Yeah, and like Pablo Sanchez was he was the GOAT backyard sports player, which is pretty hard to dispute. I mean,
he sent a fax today that just simply said, "I'm back."
I mean, yeah, he sent the fax in. He said, put the word out there that we're back up. But I mean, Pablo Sanchez, I mean, so I feel like Babe Ruth crawled so Pablo Sanchez could walk so that Shohei Ohtani could run.
That's right.
Because Pablo Sanchez could do it both. He paved the way in the modern day for Shohei Ohtani to do what he's doing.
I mean, a legend in 2 games, really. I mean, that's
Yeah. So depending when this game ends up coming out, what are some like professional baseball players like now that you could see in like the new backyard baseball game?
okay. And I'm partly saying this because, and again, and I say this as someone who's 5'7" myself. So this isn't me sitting high looking low. But Jose Altuve has to be in here, doesn't he?
I would, yeah, it does seem like it. Yeah, he would have to be in it. You would have
Shohei
to,
has to be in there just for
yeah,
the two-way.
yeah. I think Shohei, Judge, Altuve. I
Bryce.
think, yeah, Bryce Harper. I think he's got to be in there. Does Mike? I don't know if Mike Trout. I think Mike Trout's worthy of the nod. I don't know if he'd even really want to do it because he doesn't really care too much for the spotlight or whatever.
No, and he's more of a baseball card guy as we've seen this week.
Yeah, so I don't know if he'd necessarily want to be in it. I think Jose Ramirez kind of has to be in it.
Listen, there's a shortstop who, to paraphrase Trick Daddy, Paquito loved the kids. He does great work in the community. Lindor's got to be in there.
Oh yeah, I think you got to make a case. I would say either Lindor or Alonso. They definitely got to have at least one Met.
I would say Mookie, but I wonder if they would limit it to one per team. And if you're doing that, as much as I like Mookie Betts, it's got to be Ohtani for the two-way novelty. It has to be.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to remember because I know Derek Jeter was in it, but I'm trying to remember if any other Yankees were in it like back in the day. I don't think so. I don't think like if anyone else,
a ton that are accessible, right? Like I don't think it's a particularly deep MLB roster. It might be like 10 or 12. So I feel like they would keep that to one per team.
Yeah, because I remember it was like in the old one, it was like it was Derek Jeter, Mike Piazza, Sean Green was in it. I think Marty Cordova, I think, was in it.
You know what? I'm going to see if I can go find this now.
Raul Mondesi and Vladimir Guerrero were both in it.
Ooh.
And this is just off the top of the dome. And then they had like Randy Johnson. I forget if there was any other pitchers besides Randy Johnson.
Let's see. I can find Backyard Baseball 2003. Let me see.
Yeah, I think the one I had was
the teams. They've got like full. Oh no! Wait, here we go.
I think the one I had was like before that. I think I had like 2000 or 2001.
So this is 03. They had Ichiro, Bobby Higginson. You talk about remembering some guys. Sosa, Sean Green, Frank Thomas, Jim Thome,
McGuire,
Greg Vaughn. Still on Texas A-Rod, Jimmy Rollins, Pujols, Troy Glaus, Richie Sexson, Carlos Delgado, Vladimir Guerrero, Jeff Bagwell, Nomar. They had Bonds, which is interesting because of course everyone knows about the legendary John Dowd, but he was good with this.
Yeah. Bonds was in the one that I played too, I think, which was like a couple years before 03. But yeah, I could definitely see like, Judge, Lindor, or Pete Alonso.
They had Phil Nevin in this. That's wild.
Jesus. That's
Cliff Floyd's in
funny.
there. Salute to Uncle Cliff. Jason Kendall, still on the Royals.
Yeah, I remember Kendall. Yeah, I remember Beltran from Backyard Baseball too.
They had Giambi on here as a Yankee, so I guess they would have more than one from the same team.
Maybe.
Brad Radke was the Twins representative.
So did
Jeff
they have
Conine, the Oriole?
What? Did they have someone from like every team on this? Or close to it?
Pretty close, because there's Todd Helton's on here, Tim Hudson, Chipper. I don't think there was a Brewer in here. Oh no, there was Richie Sexson. I don't think there was a Red on here. Yeah, now I'm kind of scrambling.
Yeah, because the one I played, I remember there was like like the aforementioned people. I think they had Randy. I think they had Kurt. They might have had Kurt Schilling too. So yeah, I guess that would answer the question that they would have, that they would have had more than one player from a given team. I can't remember what other pitchers, but yeah, I think like obviously you'd have Shohei as a pitcher. I think other pitchers that would be in it. I'm trying to think like who would be.
Spencer Strider probably had.
Spencer Strider. Yeah, like do you think would he have a mustache as a kid? Do you think?
That's a good question. Well, I feel like I still have it up. I don't think they had Randy Johnson with them. Yeah, they have a clean-shaven Randy Johnson. Now he does have the long hair, but no facial hair, so maybe not.
Yeah, I guess not. That would be weird. Or like Paul Skeens without a stash.
By the way, I feel like it does need to get brought up on the show here, because this might be my favorite tweet of the week, because I'm sure because it was making the rounds over the weekend because of Fanatics Fest in New York. Credit to @Matt Talk to him. If I waited online for 3 hours to take a pic with Livy Dunn and she was dressed as her boyfriend, I'm burning the entire building down. And Your Honor, he's correct.
I echo that sentiment. I would probably I'd probably do similar things. For legal purposes, this is a joke. I wouldn't commit arson, but I wouldn't be I wouldn't be too pleased if that were me. But I personally would not just would not attend Fanatics Fest, because that's not something I want to support at all. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But yeah, backyard sports coming back, should be lit.
As we were talking about before we went on air, hopefully this opens the door for more games. And I say this across all sports, but would it be more than one game per sport? And
please,
Chris and I were talking before. Like, I think of, of course, everyone loves MVP Baseball 2005, which, of course, great game, great soundtrack and all that. I think back to Triple Play 2001, where like you could play, they would have the miniature players doing a home run derby in someone's living room. And if you really hit a nuke, you were hitting like a 550-foot shot off someone's big screen TV. Give me that. That's what I'm missing.
Yeah, All-Star Baseball with All-Star Baseball. They had John Sterling and Michael Kay, which is like kind of how I found out about kind of how I like found out about them even before I like started really like listening to games, because they were both on the radio broadcast back in the day. But like that was the first time I had heard John Sterling and Michael Kay was on like All-Star Baseball. Yeah, Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, MLB Showdown, the MLB Showdown, the midway game when
bring Midway
where you
back
could
just
like
as a platform.
yeah, it's like yeah, we need some. We all need some NFL blitz back in our lives too. Like, there's There's no reason why any game should be. There's really no reason why any game should be like monopolized the way that the way they seem to be doing. And this game has completely fallen apart for the Yankees. Is now 8-3. So yeah, I guess we'll chalk that one up as an L. Looks like we are once again tied for first place in the division with the Orioles. So hopefully the Mets can take that game tomorrow. Hopefully the Yankees can bounce back these next couple of games, because it would really just be encouraging. I'll close it with this, is just like I feel like the Guardians are one of those teams that they definitely belong in the conversation of like best teams in the league. And it does seem like every time the Yankees go up against one of these like juggernaut teams that they kind of get punched in the mouth a little bit. I mean, tonight was a good game and it kind of just fell apart, in the as the Guardians score another run. Cool. But it's kind of fell apart here in this 12th inning. But
I still say, as an outsider, I feel like if you guys had to play a 7-game series against them, I would still feel very comfortable taking you guys in.
Yeah, I think that's
the Guardians are built to win regular season games.
Yeah, I think maybe 6 we win it in. I'd give them 2 wins in that series, so I'd still feel comfortable. But it does feel like every time we face one of these juggernaut teams that we get punched in the mouth a little bit. So it'd be nice to see them bounce back these next couple of days. Anyway, unless you have any final thoughts, I think that's going to do it for us here this evening. But as always, thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Black Diamond. It's been a lot of fun, especially reminiscing on backyard sports and all the great players that were in it. And it'll be very interesting to see where they go with it here in the modern day. Can it live up to the what it was in our childhood? I don't know. Probably not. That might be that might be setting the bar too high.
Fine.
Yeah. I mean, NCAA football is great, but at the same time, does it really live up to? I mean, it's a great game. Don't get me wrong, but does it really live up to like what it was in like when we were younger? Or maybe we just thought things were better because like we were younger and the crippling realities of life hadn't fully set in yet. But
when I still had that gleam in my eye.
Exactly. Yeah. And hopefully you, the listeners, still have that gleam in your eye. Hopefully we were able to provide something to gleam about. If you found yourself gleaming and if you like what we do, be sure to follow us. Our socials are at the on the ticker down below, at BDPod24, at MIPod69, at AscensionPodNW, the parent company of this whole thing, now officially an LLC. Congrats to Case and congrats to us. And hopefully this means bigger things ahead. So whip that cigar out, put that in your pipe and smoke it. And we will see you next time. Peace.